you, but I only trust the best. So if you're looking at getting your roof checked out, redone, these are the guys that can help you. Belter Roofing and Construction, they are the best. They'll come out and do a free inspection. You can trust them with your roof. Call them, Belter Roofing and Construction. 405-952-7777. That's Belter Roofing and Construction.
This is the Jake for the State podcast, and this is the call for every red-blooded, God-fearing, liberty-loving patriot to prepare yourself, take your position, stand your ground, and advance the cause of freedom. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Jake for the State podcast. And as I continue to look at the issues very relevant to the state of Oklahoma, we have concluded this legislative session this year for 2024, and we are still dealing with something that was passed in session. And it's of urgent concern, I believe. It is Senate Bill 1122. And this has to do with the Oklahoma State Department of Education and the rules, certain rules that were passed through the legislature that would very much limit the ability of the State Department of Education to do what it needs to do. It seems as if it was specifically designed to target Superintendent Ryan Walters. And we have some very concerning sections in this Senate bill that we are looking for Governor Stitt to veto. There are some out there that would love to see the whole bill be vetoed. I've been told that this is not a good thing, that this was the nature of this bill would restrict it from being vetoed entirely, but certain sections could be vetoed. We're going to take a look at what this bill does and why it's concerning. So to do that, I have with me, my guest is Deborah Campbell. She is a political activist. I'll just call her a political activist because she's very much involved in all things political here in the state of Oklahoma, but especially those things pertaining to public schools. So I've been following a lot of her work and her posts, and we've talked even while I was in the Senate. We connected, and I just love what she does. She's very much engaged. And so welcome to the show, Deborah.
Well, thank you. And it's so good to see you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your, like I said, your engagement, your activism, and you're constantly working throughout the legislative session to ensure that legislators stay on track, holding them to account and informing others on what is and is not working in the best interest of the people. And so, you have been sounding the alarm about this particular bill, Senate Bill 1122, for a little bit. Tell me why you are concerned about this.
Well, it's unconstitutional. And also, a lot of people aren't aware of Senate Bill 36X. It's connected to that. So
that was a bill that was passed during special session,
exactly.
Correct?
It was first session in June of 2023. I had a constitutional attorney give me a written opinion, and he told me it was unconstitutional, and he wrote out why. I read that at the following state board meeting to Ryan Walters, and my recommendation to Ryan Walters at the time was to challenge the constitutionality and legality of Senate Bill 36X in the courts. Because what happened was, instead of Governor Stitt vetoing the bill or signing the bill, he let it sit for 10 days, which automatically became law. So now we have a bad law.
So what did Senate Bill 36 say?
It gave authoritative powers to the pro temp and the House Speaker over the state superintendent of instructions. So if you remember, McBride kept talking about he was going to put Ryan Walters in a box. Well, McBride was the author of that bill. And so I've never heard a reason from Governor Stitt as to why he let that sit. And furthermore, he endorsed Ryan Walters, so why didn't he veto it? And
Right, right. Well, as with so many bills, this is kind of an omnibus bill. I mean, it all pertains to education, but it's packed in there with multiple things that it addresses. And so one of those would be to restrict the authority of the state superintendent. But among the other things, it relates to application for federal funds, which has been an area of contention with Ryan Walters as well. And the authorization of funds transfer and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how it connects, the reason I was bringing up 36X was because that was the law that gives the control and power over the state superintendent's decisions on federal grants. So with Senate Bill 1122, Section 15 does the same thing. You're going back to Ryan Walters cannot do his job. He can't do what people elected him to do. He's under the authority of the pro temp and the House Speaker. So if there's federal programs, if there's WOC programs, which they are, and they're federally funded, and he wants to terminate the contract or not renew it or not apply for any programs that are woke, he can't do that. He has to do whatever they tell him to do.
Right. And it's concerning because he is a duly elected official, and we elected him for this role and responsibility is to oversee the public schools. And now this would defer that responsibility, like you said, to the pro tem and the Speaker of the House, which I've been arguing for a while. They've already captured way too much power. There's too much centralized power already in the House and the Senate. And this would just continue to increase that.
Well, also, I can argue that they're expanding, that the legislators are expanding more power. If you remember, Mickey Dolenz came out with a bill for the session. It was called Do Your Job Act. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the number, but I should. But he promoted it, and the narrative was that they were going to control Ryan's paycheck through this bill because it would be based on his performance. Well, when I read the bill, it goes much further, and it actually goes the direction that the legislature, NEA, teachers union, and so forth. And people should look at it and read it because even though it's this session, it's going to come up next session, and Senate Bill 1122 is a piece of that.
Right. Prior to the passage of this, Matt Oberdick, the Director of External Relations from the State Department of Education, he released a letter saying that we are under direct political attack from the Speaker of the House, Charles McCall, and House member Mark McBride. And it says legislation is being pushed through to cripple Superintendent Ryan Walters in Senate Bill 1122, prohibiting him from addressing crucial issues like critical race theory, keeping porn out of school, promoting school choice, and advocating for the reforms needed to empower parents to control their children's education. And he says if this passes, the legislature will strip Ryan Walters of his ability to combat liberal media. It goes on to blatant attack on Walters. No other statewide elected official is targeted like this. No other state agency is under this kind of attack. And in a recent interview in the Oklahoman, Governor Stitt said, if someone is using state resources for self-promotion, that's wrong. I want to stop that. And of course, he's referring to Walters hiring a PR person, or actually maybe the Department of Education hiring this PR person. And this was, what was their name? It was down in Houston, this PR agency. And so I think this drew a lot of attention and scrutiny, this PR firm being hired. And they used them to develop some social media videos and also an awareness video. Let me see here. For what was it? For the Department of Education, but it says that one section of this bill, Senate Bill 1122, forbids the agency from using money under its control to secure media interviews or other public promotional purposes. And it seems like this is a big part of the focus of this bill, and the reason for it, a driving factor, is this PR firm and the use of public funds, taxpayer funds, to hire outside agencies. And that's what Stitt said too. He said, I may do another executive order to stop state agencies from hiring outside PR firms. I don't like it, but I also don't want, he said, but I also don't like picking on one agency, one executive agency, or the Department of Education. If there's a rule that's good for one agency, maybe let's have it across the board for all agencies. Let's not pick on one agency. So he's reviewing that, he says. So Governor Stitt does not like this idea of using state funds to hire outside agencies for PR purposes. What do you think about this? And do you think this is a legitimate reason for legislation like this?
My concern is censoring. You're saying outside sources. Are you saying out of state, or is it legit to do it from a source in state?
Yeah, so this was actually Precision Outreach from Houston. It was a Houston company called Precision Outreach, and it, like I said, produced these public awareness videos. And this is where teachers and unions were really highlighted. Not all teachers, of course, but a big focus on unions and the negative influence of unions, and also the promotion of LGBTQ agendas and things like that. And it says that these cost around $22,000, and there was a contract of $50,000 between the agency and Precision Outreach. So, this drew a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism, hiring this not only outside the state. I'm sorry, it is a private entity is what I'm trying to say, but it's also outside the state down in Houston. So possibly that could be legitimate. What do you think about that in this argument of taxpayer funds hiring an out-of-state agency to produce these promotional videos?
Well, my preference would be in state, because you want to support your local business. That's been my thing and personally, I don't see why they could not, the State Department of Education, why not set up a PR department and do their own work? Hire the right people, because I don't know anything about media. But if they have the staff to create their own videos and so forth, go for it. Under the umbrella of, it's a department or, a job position within the U.S., within the State Department of Ed. But my thing is, the legislators, they've got to go back.
That was one thing that Governor
Stitt, within their professional scope. You've got to let the State Department of Education stay within their professional scope. I'm getting tired of this because it's the teachers union and NEA that's creating all this problem, and people should be upset because Senate Bill 36X and this bill, what it's doing, it's preventing the people to have a right to vote. We voted for Ryan Walters to do a job. He's been doing a great job. He's trying to do what he campaigned on, but the legislators, the unions, are trying to stop them. And in the meantime, they're trampling over our constitutional rights. And the public should be outraged. And this is going to continue if we don't get rid of Senate Bill 36X. And if you listen to the hearing that went on a couple days ago or last week, they one of the Democrats brought up 36X and the fact that, oh, well, the pro temp and them have control over the funding issue. And but they got away with it. And if it's not rescinded, this is going to continue. And Mickey Dolan's bill makes it very clear that their goal is to take away enforcement powers, the responsibilities of the State Department of Education to some degree. It's going to take away the powers of the superintendent, the enforcement powers, and so forth with the state board. And they're going to turn it all over to this one department. And that department will get to do accreditation compliance, create standards for school accreditation. They'll be doing enforcement. So that's their ultimate goal, is to start tearing down the State Department of Ed.
Right. Now, the two sections that are very concerning, the big call to the governor right now is to veto, in particular, sections 15 and 16. So not necessarily a veto of the whole bill, but of 15 and 16. So let me just read section 15 for the listeners. It says, the State Department of Education shall not decline, refuse participation in, or choose not to apply for any federal grant funding that had been received by the department prior to fiscal year 2023 without joint approval from the President Pro Tem of the Oklahoma State Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So what is it about this that makes this unconstitutional?
Well, it's preventing Ryan Walters from doing his job. His job is to address, he's responsible for grants and things of that nature. Why is the legislator, the pro temp and the House Speaker, why do they want the authority to make those decisions? It's always been the superintendent and the OSDE. They're the ones that have always been responsible for applying for grants, rejecting, and all that. And then suddenly they want this power. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't tell you specifically why it's unconstitutional. People can look it up themselves. I was a reliable attorney. He told me it was unconstitutional. So that's what I'm going on. And again, it goes back to what I said. Stay in your lane. Right, the pro temp and the House Speaker needs to stay in their lane and stay out of this. It is the parents, it is the grandparents, it's the taxpayers that should have a voice in our public schools. And I'm really sick of it.
Now, well, and likewise in section 16, again, this targets the state superintendent directly, saying no funds appropriated to the State Department of Education in enrolled Senate Bill number 1125 of the second session of the 59th Oklahoma Legislature, or under the control of the State Department of Education, shall be encumbered or expended for the purpose of securing media interviews, public relations, or other public promotional purposes unless expressly required to participate in a federal grant program. Again, targeting the actions of Ryan Walters by hiring this outside agency to produce these videos. So, I think that, Deborah, if these videos had not addressed the particular issues that it addressed, this would be a non-issue. If these videos were about, we need to give teachers a raise and we need to give state superintendents a raise, nothing would have been said about hiring an outside agency. But because we addressed these issues that touched a nerve with the left and the moderates in our Oklahoma legislature, all of a sudden now we have to pass legislation to shut that down.
Yeah. Well, how would the legislators like it if we started putting limitations on who did their videos, their campaign platforms?
Exactly. Can we talk some more about that? About
Yeah.
the hiring of these consultants? Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
hey,
that
but
opens up a whole new can of worms, but a
if
great
that's the
point.
game they're going to play, I think it's fair. And like I said, well,
And of course, they would argue, of course, that they're using campaign funds, that it's not necessarily taxpayer funds, but it's campaign funds. But we get into.
But you do a lot more when you're the incumbent. You've got access with your websites, your government websites, where you post your press releases and all that. They can do they do. There's stuff they do, and
Yeah, and there are laws in place to prevent them from using that for campaign purposes. Not to say not everybody abides by those laws, but there are laws in place to prevent that. But yeah, it is an interesting topic you bring up about it. I mean, when we're talking about promo videos and the hiring of outside agencies and things like this, again, I think that it was not so much who he hired, but what the content focused on that brought this kind of scorn and criticism. And now we're looking here at sections 15 and 16. And I've been told that the governor is considering a decision on this by Wednesday, which would be the 5th, I believe, if I have my dates right today. Yeah, it is the 3rd. So that would make it the 5th of June. And if that's correct, then we want to encourage the governor to veto these particular sections because I'm in favor of what you said is, hey, let's not restrict his ability to do what he does, and let's not empower the pro tem and the speaker with even more authority to oversee the Department of Education. But instead, let's leave that to that department. So the call is for the governor to veto these two particular sections, section 15 and 16. And again, I read them to you. We're talking about the use of funds, about applying for federal money. Now, one of the things I love that Ron Walters has done, and I don't agree with everything he's done, but I agree with a lot of what he's done. But his insistence that we wean off of federal money is huge. And of course, that alone has drawn a lot of scorn and criticism across the state. But, I think it's a necessary move if we want to protect Oklahoma's sovereignty and we want to protect our children from insane mandates being handed down, like boys being able to participate in girls' sports and things like that. We as a state need to stand against that. One of the best ways to do it is not be dependent on federal money.
well, also everybody keeps talking about local control. You are not going to have local control as long as you have federal money and programs coming into the schools. And
Right.
yeah, I mean,
100%.
and so that's why I supported Ryan Walters, is because he understands that, you take that money, it's conditional, and the feds can come in and you have to abide by whatever they want you to do. And so that true local control is eliminating the federal money. And look at the homeschoolers. They do a great job. They don't spend billions of dollars to educate their children. And the colleges want homeschoolers really bad because they do great on tests. When they're tested, they do great. But why is it that we got to have
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
why do we
it's
have to have all these billions of dollars and we can't, and we're still at the bottom nationally. The kids can't read, they can't do math. It's insane. Oh,
yeah, yeah. The
and
answer is definitely not more
and then to
money.
top it off, the one thing that I'm working on right now for 2025 has to do with the schools converting to school-based health clinics. And that's a whole other topic. And I'm telling you, and it's big federal dollars that's sponsoring this. And and even though Oklahoma has the law preventing minors from having gender transitioning pharmaceuticals and surgery, they can get gender affirming therapy in the schools. So, yeah.
Right. Very concerning. These school-based clinics, these what they call wraparound services, focusing on the whole
Hmm.
child, and then of course that would just conveniently bypass the authority of the parents and just offer these services directly to the kids. Like you said, even if they include gender affirming care, this gender therapy, or other kinds of treatments. So yeah, very
Yeah.
concerning. Thankfully, we didn't see anything like that make any headway this year, did we? In the legislature?
No, Senator Dom had an excellent bill. It was to redefine health education because that's the Trojan horse for all this stuff. So, I had a group in 2023 and we wrote a bill and Senator Dom took it. And what it did was it limited health education to nutrition and phys ed. And that
Yeah,
exactly.
to focus on
So
true
that would
health.
get
Yeah, it
rid.
it was a
So
great
a
bill.
lot of people.
Yeah, we need to get see that revived next year for sure.
Oh, you'll see it. And so I wrote a bill. I've written two bills actually, um, and the focus will be to eliminate the school-based healthcare clinics or whatever they want to call them. The name changes all the time, but to eliminate that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, because you do things like that. And it's a reminder to people that you truly are the government. And that, did you know that you could actually write a bill and you can present it to your legislator, to your representative. And of course they can make sure it's got the right legalese and it'll go through the legal staff and everything anyway. But we can bring ideas and legislation to our legislators to carry. And you're a great
Yeah.
model of that, Deborah. I really appreciate that, especially in this area of public education, really protecting our children. But I have to hop
Well,
off.
I'm vested.
Do what'd you say?
Oh, I said I said I'm invested. I have grandchildren,
Right.
and I'm retired now, and I have the time to put into it, and I have to protect my grandchildren, and
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we do it.
and also I'll have great grandchildren at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So those retired people out there,
That's
get
right.
busy.
That's right. Yeah, young and
We
old.
got to re.
But again, Deborah, thank you for your time. I'm going to wrap it up here. We try to keep these about 30 minutes. So I appreciate your time and bringing awareness to this Senate Bill 1122. So God bless you. We'll have to do it again soon.
Oh, bless you too. Thank you. Bye.
All right. You bet. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Deborah Campbell. I mean, just like she said, grandma, soon to be great grandma, and doing all she can to protect her family, her children, her grandchildren. And isn't that something we should all be doing? So I hope you're encouraged and motivated by that to do something as well, and to do something soon. So I would encourage you, take a look at Senate Bill 1122, exactly what it accomplishes or seeks to accomplish. And if you have concerns like I do, like Deborah does, I would encourage you to call Governor Stitt, if you're here in Oklahoma, of course, and let him know that you'd like to see. We're encouraging sections 15 and 16 that directly targets Superintendent Ryan Walters to be vetoed. And he can do that. He can veto portions of a bill. So again, I read it to you. Take a look at it for yourself. See if this is something that you can get behind or if you'd like to see changed or vetoed. And I would give him a call because time is ticking and a bill can sit on the governor's desk for 10 days. And if he does nothing, it automatically becomes law, something a lot of people aren't aware of. So it is sitting on his desk. He is supposed to reach a decision soon. I was told by June 5th. Today's June 3rd, so we have a little bit of time, but not much. So I would get on this if it's concerning to you at all. But I appreciate your time today. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Man, it's important that we get messages like this out across the state. This is one avenue to do it, so you doing that helps. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time right here on the Jake for the State podcast.